Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome to The Last Lap. In today's video we're going to be breaking down everything we saw from Daytona for the final cutoff race before the playoffs for the NASCAR Cup Series. But before we hop into the video, just want to quickly remind you guys to hit that like button and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it if you did that. But let's go ahead and hop into the video. Matthew, my friend and co-host, is joining me on the show, and I just want to let him know and let you all know watching that whatever this man decides to say at me, whatever he decides to come at me with tonight, I'm just going to warn you to tread lightly, because whatever you say tonight, I will remember, and it will come back to get you later on at some point. So I'm just letting you know now. You could have your fun now. You could get it all out of the way. It is not going to affect me. I'm going to keep a straight face, but say what you want, but I'm just giving you a warning now. But anyways, Matthew, how you feeling before we go ahead and hop into everything we saw from Daytona? It was a lot, so we got a lot to hop into.
Well, I hope everyone had a fantastic Daytona weekend, which did not disappoint. So, hey Jimmy, how you doing today? You good? I want to make sure you're good here. See, I brought some luggage. I brought some luggage over here because they cleaned out the lockers today. So, I brought some luggage for you. And just one more thing before we get things started. I just want to wish you a Merry All Season and a Happy Christmas. I know you have that sweater. You need to put that sweater on right now. You need to put on that sweater.
Hold on. So I have the T-shirt. Hold on. I'll grab it. 1 second. Hold on. It's in here somewhere. Hold on. Here. I'll grab it for you. I can't put it on right now because I have my headphones on.
There it is.
There you go. Just for you.
There it is.
There's a shirt. I'll lay it over here for now. Maybe I'll
Perfect is the perfect shirt.
I'll lay it on my bed for now. Maybe I'll put it on while you're talking. But you had to have gotten that from the social media posts I sent you that had all of the Chase Elliott comments, which you believe is only like 2% of the entire NASCAR fan base, but they're there. They are there. Chase Elliott does have haters, including, you yourself. But anyways, yeah, so
Hey.
I have a bag too right here, and I even have you beat. I have a backpack too. I got a backpack and a duffel bag right here, ready to go.
Hey, look at you. All ready for Cancun.
Yeah, I'm ready to enjoy the summer weather a little bit longer. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop into the recap. There was a lot of action, a lot of drama, and most importantly, a playoff spot on the line. Bubba Wallace had it, and basically everybody else wanted it. So Bubba Wallace was in on points over Ty Gibbs and Daniel Suarez, who technically and mathematically had a chance to point his way in. But everybody else, they needed a win to get into the playoffs. Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, the 3 SHR cars, Eric Almirola, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, and several others, they all wanted that final playoff spot. The Fords, they got off to a great start. Briscoe and Almirola, they swept the front row for qualifying, and then they controlled the race early on. But the Toyotas, they made a push and eventually got to the lead, and the end of stage one was very exciting between Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin. They each controlled a lane. Martin Truex Jr. was able to pull away and get the stage win there. And Riley Herbst, he was in a great spot. I think he was the second car on the outside lane actually pushing Denny Hamlin. And then Kevin Harvick just goes right underneath of him, leaves him out to dry. Riley Herbst goes all the way to the back of the field. And that's the one bad thing about being in the outside lane, is that somebody could just peek to your inside or outside. One person goes with them, you go all the way to the back. But Martin Truex Jr. would get the stage win. And right after that, Kyle Busch got a penalty, a pit road penalty. But right after that next green flag run, he pushed AJ Allmendinger all the way to the front on the third lane. Those two got that third lane moving. And right before you know it, Kyle Busch was right back into the thick of things. And then stage two was just remarkable as far as racing goes. There was one point where they were 3 wide, several rows deep in stage two. Lots of drivers had their handfuls with their race car, including Chase Elliott. he lost control and almost spun the car out. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. kind of sucked the air off of the side of his car, and Chase got very loose and almost wiped out him and probably almost the whole field. But the drama would start to pick up. There was a big crash at the end of stage number 2. Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs were pushing each other on the high line. Bell was pushing Ty Gibbs, and I don't know if they may have made contact. It may have just been air. Either way, Ty Gibbs spins around and collects Ryan Blaney, who has a massive impact to the outside wall. You could just see the safer barrier just cave in, and the wall just cave in when Ryan Blaney hits it basically head on at however fast he was going. But very big crash there, took out a lot of contenders. Ty Gibbs was actually in a really good position to win the stage and get stage points, which would have made that points battle a lot more interesting between Ty Gibbs and Bubba Wallace if he was to win that stage. But that took him out of playoff contention. But yeah, big crash there at the end of the stage. And actually a smart move by NASCAR. They red flagged the race so they could get a bunch of safety vehicles out there to either tow or push the cars that were involved in the wreck back to pit road once the red flag was lifted and it was back to yellow. So smart move by NASCAR there. I applaud them for doing that. They should probably do that more often. But glad they implemented that, and glad they had the vehicles on standby to be able to help all those cars get pushed back to pit road. And Ryan Blaney was honestly pretty upset. In his post-race interview, apparently he hung around after the race as well and talked to Christopher Bell when he was done. And, you know, I get Ryan Blaney's upset, but, I mean, I don't think Christopher Bell did anything wrong. He wasn't trying to wreck his teammate. And in my opinion, I don't think they even made contact. I don't think he hit Ty Gibbs. I think it was just air that got taken off of Ty Gibbs and just spun him around. Maybe they did make contact, maybe they didn't. I don't know. It didn't look like they did from my opinion, so that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to stick to it. But yeah, I don't really get why Ryan Blaney's that upset. It's super speedway racing. I mean, I guess you don't put yourself in that position at the end of the stage, but everybody's trying to win and get stage points and all that stuff. But the 3 SHR cars in Stage 3, they put themselves in position where they needed to be. They were running 1, 2, and 3. And then it got to a freight train for most of the third stage. That big wreck kind of seemed to calm everybody down. But green flags, pit stops started happening. And there was one group that pitted a little bit earlier and one group that pitted a little bit later. So the group that stayed out on the track a little bit longer, they cycled to the front. And then the group that pitted early, they were a little bit behind, but they were able to catch the first pack. And Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott, they were at the front of that pack. But then disaster strikes once again, this time involving Ryan Preece. He somehow gets sent towards the inside of the backstretch, sliding sideways. The car lifts off the air, just scary crash. The car hits the ground, tumbles a few times. The car pops really high in the air, spins like 5 or 6 times in the air just that one time alone. Car lands again, pops up again, does like almost like a pirouette kind of thing in the air. Just a very scary incident. It took Ryan Preece quite a while to get out of the car, but thankfully he was able to get out of the car under his own power. He was placed on a stretcher and then taken to the infield care center, and then after that it was announced he was taken to a local hospital for later evaluation. He did thankfully share a tweet later that night. I'll throw that on the screen for you guys to see, but he says, if you want to be a race car driver, you better be tough and something, and then fast. Ford Performance Mustang, I'm coming back. So it was really great to see Ryan Preece respond to all the fans that night. And then this morning, Stuart Haas Racing released a statement that he was released from the hospital and he is on his way back home. No update on any kind of injuries or tests that were done or anything like that, but very thankful that Ryan Preece is heading back home. Very scary crash. One of the scariest I've seen probably since Ryan Newman's 2020 Daytona crash, but very scary. Very thankful that he is okay though. But just the way the car, I understand how it got in the air because it was going sideways and it kind of jumped over the grass. That I can see how the air got under it and kind of pushed it in the air, but the way like so it landed the first time and then it just popped like really high in the air. I don't even know how high it was, but the height that that car got on the first bounce, like that's what baffles me the most. And then the second time when it lands and hits the ground and pops up and is almost like vertical up and down, spinning in the air, like that's what I don't get behind the concept of that crash. Like it's just scary, and I don't, I know very little about physics, but I would think that a car shouldn't do that. So NASCAR is going to take that car back and take a look at it. And I think even I saw like screenshots during the crash. It seemed like the roof hatch, which is above, which is on the roof, where a driver could pop it open if they need to get out that way. I saw that seemed to be damaged and kind of flapping around during the crash. And I saw the window net was kind of damaged and maybe flying around and stuff like that too. So just very scary, the destruction that was done to that race car. But yeah, NASCAR definitely they need to do something about figuring out how to prevent these cars from getting in the air like that. I mean, I know Harrison Burton, he flipped in the Daytona 500 last year, and I think Chase Briscoe flipped as well. But my short opinion on one thing that could be fixed at the racetrack is the grass. I think that needs to be, as much of that needs to be removed or replaced as soon as possible. And I don't want to hear any excuses, because they did it when Kyle Busch had his crash on the front stretch in the Xfinity series. There was grass all down that front stretch where he slid and ended up hitting that wall there. They replaced most, if not all of that, with asphalt. So I don't want to hear any excuses. The tracks, they need to do something about grass on these racetracks, because, whatever it is, it just helps the car. It just makes the car slide even further, helps the car get in the air, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, after that incident was finally settled, that set up overtime. And the two RFK cars, they were, I think, first and second, or second and third, whatever. They both chose the top lane. And then Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott chose the bottom. Chase Elliott put himself in a great position to be able to hopefully capitalize and try to win his way into the playoffs. But those RFK cars, they were just so good. The Fords in general were just so good at pushing, especially down the straightaways. I think Eric Almirola might have been the best pusher all night long, because he could just lock to Chase Briscoe's back bumper and give him a huge push down the back straightaway almost every time. And that's what happened with Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher. Brad Keselowski is able to push his car, Chris Buescher, to the win. So Chris Buescher wins. Bubba Wallace earns the final playoff spot due to nobody else new winning. So I will quickly throw the top 10 on the board for you guys to see. One that sticks out, Corey LaJoie, top 10. Great run for him. He's always kind of hanging around the super speedway races. But yeah, the Fords, very strong all day long, like they have been for so long on these super speedway racetracks. But post-race thoughts. Chris Buescher, 3 wins in the last 5 races. But, I am going to say but, I think everybody needs to hold their horses just a little bit as far as expectations go for Chris Buescher in the playoffs. Yes, I'm saying it. I will, I'm not going to say my bracket yet. I'm not going to say how far he's going to go in the playoffs just yet. But think back to 2021. Ryan Blaney, he won the final 2 races of the regular season. Gave him some momentum going into the playoffs. I looked it up. He finished 7th in points. I don't know what round he got knocked out of, but 7th is where he ended up finishing in the points that year. So I'm just going to say everybody hold their horses on all of the Chris Buescher and RFK momentum. Yes, they have been strong all season long. I agree 100% with that. I just don't know if they're like, Chris Buescher's a championship threat and da-da-da-da. I don't know about all that. They may be able to make a push to maybe the round of 8 or something like that. I'll process all of that in my bracket whenever we do that. But definitely some momentum for Chris Buescher. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm very happy for them that they seem to be back on track and can make a threat in the playoffs. But the other side of the whole playoff thing, drivers like Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, those SHR cars, Austin Dillon, Eric Jones, they all do not make the playoffs. And even Austin Cindric, who made the playoffs last year, lots of big names do not make the playoffs this year. And Martin Truex Jr., he won the regular season championship. He locked that up at the end of stage 2. And with that, I will throw the playoff standings on the board right there for you guys. And as you guys can see, William Byron and Martin Truex Jr., they are tied at the top. And then below the cut line right now, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Bubba Wallace. But yeah, I think that's it. A lot of stuff going on from Daytona. Playoffs, crashes, crazy finishes, this, that, the other thing. But yeah, Matthew, go ahead and share with the people some of the thoughts that you have following what you saw from Daytona.
Wow, that is a lot to take in right there. This was such an amazing weekend at Daytona. Um, I mean, so much great race. There was some of the best speedway racing that we have seen with this next gen car. Three wide around the track, especially in stage two. I mean, such amazing racing. But first and foremost, congratulations to Chris Buescher, his third win out of 5 races, and his boss Brad Keselowski made it a 1-2 RFK finish. And I know you're saying pump the brakes, but I'm going to say the opposite here. They are peaking at the right time. I mean, this team, this organization is clicking right now. I mean, I don't think it's really a big, I don't think it's really controversial to say that RFK is the best Ford team right now. I mean, I know you got Penske, but I mean, Logano's just kind of been up and down. Blaney's been up and down. And then SHR, we all know how they are. They're not good at all. And then Front Row Motorsports, who has also been improving as well. But RFK is the best Ford team right now. And I feel like right now things are just clicking for them at the right time. And if Buescher does make it past the first round, I definitely love the second round for him. Because you got Texas Motor Speedway, which that's his home track. And you got Talladega, which he just won Daytona. And there's the Roval, which he's very good on road courses. So, I mean, I don't think it's really a stretch to say that Chris Buescher could potentially be in the third round. So, I mean, like I said, this team is clicking right now. And I'm happy for Chris Buescher because he has been an underdog in the past few years. And now all of a sudden, we're starting to see a new star starting to rise here. So I'm happy for him. Congrats to him, and we'll see how he does in his second time in the playoffs. Remember, his first time was 2016, which was in Provo Motorsports at that time, which that didn't go too well. But I think it'll go way better this time. Um, but besides the amazing racing we had, we also had some big hits that we had. And first, I want to start off with Ryan Blaney. I'm I'm glad he was able to get out the car. I think he seemed to be okay. Because that was a very hard hit. I mean, you saw the safety barrier flex right there. You know that was a big hit, and the angle that he hit that wall was just brutal as well. I mean, he didn't have time to react. It was just a sharp 90-degree angle hit, which was big. And of course, they changed the front clips with these cars this year, and I feel like that absolutely helped with absorbing that impact because you saw the front end basically destroyed, which that is a good thing. We don't want to see this front end look like it barely had a dent in it. So I'm glad these changes worked, and I'm glad Blaney was able to walk out there okay. And now on to pretty much one of the worst wrecks that we have seen in, in the past 20 years, basically, um, with Ryan Preece. This wreck reminded me of two incidents similar. It reminded me of Elliott Sadler back in 2003 at Talladega, the way the car just took off and just went out of control. And also, it reminded me of Rusty Wallace back in the 90s at Daytona, where he went over on the back straightaway, and once he hit the grass, it shot up in the sky basically. So, and I mean, first and foremost, I'm glad he was able to get out under his own power, and it sounds like he's okay. He's in good spirits. We don't know if he has any injuries. He'll be back next weekend, but as far as we've seen, it sounds like he's in good spirits. So I'm glad he's okay. Um, but the car pretty much did its job, and I think one thing they when they take this car to R&D center, I expect them to look at the roof hatch because it did come off during it. Which I mean, I understand how violent that crash was. I don't think we've seen a crash this violent in a long time. So I'm not going to go hard on them for that, but I think they should definitely try to find a way to make sure that roof hatch make sure it stays on stronger because it flew out there the moment it started digging into the grass. But the roof on if you looked at the roof of the car, besides the roof hatch, if you looked at the roof of that car, I mean, it didn't look like it had a lot of damage on top, which that was a very important detail with this next gen car. We know how strong the car is, which we're, we know it could be too strong depending on which part of the car, but the one part that it should stay strong is the roof of the car. And of course, they had that detail from the Ryan Newman incident where he got hit on the roof, and you saw how big amount of damage it had on that roof. So for the roof of that car to barely have a wrinkle, to barely have just minimal damage, is an absolute win. Because we don't. If that was the old car, I'm afraid the roof of that thing would have just pancaked, and it could. I think I would have been absolutely more serious than it was dealing with the driver and just the little amount of room you have in there. We didn't know how tight the inside of these cars are between the helmet and the roof. And if that was the old car, I don't think I think it would have been way more serious. But thankfully, with these next gen cars and how strong the roof on these cars are now, I think that's what helped Ryan Preece get out under his own power. That's my opinion. And as for you saying about how they keep these cars on the ground, I mean I gotta be careful there because it doesn't matter how many we've seen so many generation of cars, and each generation of car there has been a car's flipping. I mean, you're never going to get rid of that because there's always going to be a wreck where a car gets hit at a certain angle, which helps get the air underneath the car. I mean, there's no way you can stop that unless you make the cars go 150 miles per hour. Well, guess what? That's not going to happen on super speedway. That's just not. But I mean, I'm sure NASCAR will continue to find a way to help improve it, keeping the cars on the ground, but you're never going to get rid of it because that's just how physics are. If you get hit at a certain angle, the air just gets underneath the car and it takes off. That's just how it is. So, but I'm glad Ryan Preece is okay, and hopefully we'll see him back at the track soon. I don't know if it'll be this weekend or not, but hopefully everything will be okay. But yeah, what an action-packed regular season ending, and let's get ready for the playoffs.
All right. Yeah, so that's really all I have to say about the race. I think I actually did a decent job for once getting all my thoughts done in like my first little section of the video. I'm gonna just go ahead and rate this race. For me, I think it's gotta be like a man. I'll say a 9.5 out of 10. It had pretty much everything you wanted from a super speedway race. Lots of good racing in the middle of the pack. A tiny bit of single file, which is okay. I'm not mad at that. A few crashes. Thankfully, everybody seems to have been okay from the crashes. I don't thrive on wanting crashes. It just makes the racing a little bit more exciting. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Matthew, what are you going to rate the race?
I'll give it a 9 out of 10 as well. I'm glad it wasn't, some big, huge wreck fest. And I'm glad, we didn't have a million overtimes. And, well, I mean, the racing was just absolutely amazing. I mean, I have no complaints. I mean, they did go single file for a little bit, but, I mean, that's how super speedway racing is. So, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Alright, well, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the video, but we are going to do our playoff predictions at some point. Hopefully this week we can record that and get that out for you guys before the playoffs start at Darlington. You guys don't want to miss that episode. We'll have both of our brackets. We'll go through who makes it through every round. We'll each do it for ourselves, and we'll eventually crown a champion with those brackets as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that video. But we thank you guys for watching this one. Let us know any thoughts you guys have about Daytona in the comment section below, and we will see you guys in our next video.